And we have here on stage one giant lean leap for humankind. So I will call Alistair Lee. Hello,
Thank you,
Alistair.
Chris. Hi, Chris. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to this session. Yes, one giant lean leap for humankind. My name's Alistair Lee, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Rose Heathcott. As far as problems go, it doesn't get much bigger than climate change and biodiversity loss. How can we use our lean problem-solving skills to tackle such a challenge? Rose is passionate about this topic and well qualified with extensive experience as a practitioner, coach, and researcher. She started learning about lean in the automotive industry and then worked in many different industries, including a brewery. She led the Lean Institute Africa and is now head of sustainable enterprise and senior lecturer at the University of Buckingham. Thank you for sharing your experience with us, Rose. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Alistair. And thanks very much for having me here today. I'm coming to you from a cold and wet Buckingham in the UK, which is just a couple hours out of London. You can see Buckingham in the background here. And I'm honored to be invited to speak to you guys on such an important topic. So thanks for having me. And the theme of the conference, I think, is excellent. Rough seas, learning to sail in very different conditions, becoming a better sailor. So in a world of volatility and uncertainty, I think this seems like the right theme to be working through tonight. So the title of my presentation is designed to grab attention. One giant lean leap for humankind. But I actually don't think it's such a giant leap in thinking to use our lean skills for good. But I do think there is a giant leap in thinking to move from a traditional company built on a take, make, waste business model to a more forward-thinking, sustainable enterprise that is built on giving more than it takes. So, I think bringing people together to solve problems every day is a lean challenge, is the lean challenge. But it's not the only lean challenge. I think this is also just as applicable to our sustainability challenge too. So I think both require the same kind of thinking and the same kind of doing. So just, Alistair, have I got my presentation up yet? Just a question.
Coming up now.
All right, great.
There you go.
Thanks very much for that. So today I hope to inspire you to serve your company, serve your customers in new ways, because I think our task here is to help everyone every day solve problems that matter. But to do this, I do think we have to have a better handle on what the problems are to be solved, so that we can then use our lean skills to get it done. So I have a few talking points for today, and I hope you'll forgive me that I may at first seem like I'm talking a little high level and a little conceptually, but I actually think we need to appreciate the context if we're to know what to look for when we go out on a Gemba walk and what it is we're looking for and what we need to go deeper into. So before I start, I just want to take a quick diversion. Let's go into the real world to see what's happening at the moment. Some of you may be following the goings-on of COP27, which finishes, I think, tomorrow. And I don't know how you feel about it. Perhaps some of you feel pessimistic, perhaps some of you feel optimistic, or some of you are feeling neutral about it. I know some people find it a little depressing to hear the Secretary General of the UN say that we're on a highway to climate hell with our foot on the accelerator. As we say in South Africa, which is where I'm originally from, Aish, what a buzzkiller. But jokes aside, this is a big challenge. It's a serious one, but I also think there are things we can do. So I suppose one of the questions I'm hearing is whether COP27 is all that effective. Some say the world is just far too distracted with, war, gas shortages, political situations, nation relations, and maybe COP27 isn't getting as much attention as it should. So from a timing perspective, it's probably not an ideal time with all this distraction going on. But with not enough action taking place between the last COP and this COP, I think people are feeling pretty frustrated. On the one hand, we've got 200 nations flying around, doing even more talking, which doesn't quite sit that well with me. I'd rather see some homegrown action instead of all this talking and flying around. But on the other hand, we do need nations to come together, to work together towards a common goal. So I'll leave you to decide what you think of this. But the message is coming from the critics is loud and clear. Not keeping global temperatures below the 1.5 target has significant implications on businesses and customers, the customers that we serve. So mitigation is very much about reducing impact, and it's still really important. So we definitely need to keep on, improving our supply chains, keeping on cutting our emissions. But adaptation is equally important and an equally important strategy, I believe. So carrying on with my COP27 digression, I'll get to my talking points soon. Some of you may have seen these photos of Toyota, the Toyota production plant on the east coast of South Africa, which was underwater just a few months ago from flooding. And you only need to read about the 4,000 cars that they had to scrap and how their people were affected to get a taste for the adaptability that businesses will face. So there's an incredible story actually behind this crisis, and a story about engaging employees and communities during a crisis. So Toyota's number one priority was their people and their families and their communities. And only once they had stabilized people's safety and their well-being was there a shift to getting production up and running again. So the president of Toyota South Africa presented their incredible story just a few weeks ago, where he explained some of the things they had learned and how they were adapting for future floods. So it took a while for the new machines to arrive that they'd ordered to replace the damaged ones. But in the meantime, they actually took the time to pull them apart and fix up some of the damaged machines, learning more about their functionality. And they even came up with kaizens, like lifting equipment off the floor for future floods. So you can read about their story in the news. But what I want to emphasize here is the importance of adaptation for future situations, but also the incredible importance of your people in these times. They could not have gotten the plant up and running again without the commitment of their people, and they would not have had their commitment without earning their respect and the respect of their people and the communities around them. So that, to me, is the real power of lean. So problems and crises will occur in lean companies, but it is a lean company's ability to bring people together to problem solve that keeps them resilient in crisis and ensures the company's survival. So we certainly have a lot on our plates. Let's get to the talking points. If we're to become more resilient and provide more affordable living standards and tackle carbon reduction, just to name a few of our challenges. But as the UN chief asked at the COP27 this week, or a few days ago, with the 8 billion baby now being born, he asked, what will we tell that baby when it's all grown up? We should be able to tell that baby that the lean community did a lot to combat the problems. So as lean thinkers, I think you can help to prepare people and their problem-solving capacity needed for the sustainability challenge. So it's time for us to build leaders, I think, who tug on the bigger levers, not just focus on short-term profits and short-term KPIs. And we need to build systems thinkers who can translate these big challenges into ground-level improvements. So this is where the lean community, I think, is particularly skilled. We're good at connecting strategy with on-the-ground action. We're good at choosing what to improve and then using cycles of PDCA to make it happen. So tackling the climate change and other planetary boundaries is best done with everyone's help. So I guess my question to you is, how can we bring all hearts and heads and hands on deck to solve the challenge using lean? So we're lean thinkers, so perhaps we should begin by clarifying the challenge and the problem to be solved. What opportunities do we need to spot that can make better supply chains that deliver better products and services for a better future? And what problem will we then solve? For one, let's not brush the problem under the carpet. When we improve business performance, we check our vitals. We check profitability, lead times, quality level, safety, incidents. But what are our planet vitals? And do we know what the planet vitals are telling us? And where should we put our energy? We're also addicted to growth. It's how our economy is designed. It's how we survive. It's how we operate in it. And business growth and survival is linked to planet health. So every business depends on the planet providing what we need, free of charge, such as clean air, water, food, soil, a good climate, and productive seas. So what problem do we need to solve? Well, since the 18th century, we've grown so much, which is great for GDP, but it's not so great for the planet as we put pressure on our resources. So to solve this problem, we need to build profitable, competitive companies that are growing, but that also disconnect their growth from planetary impact and tread more lightly on the planet. So Lean helps us to grow businesses and become more competitive. We have to solve the problem that as we grow and as we become more competitive, as we serve more customers, that we disconnect from our impact. So I kind of hope you're going to agree with me that Lean thinkers have actually quite an important responsibility here. So to do this requires that we keep our foot on the gas of the problem-solving gas, and we keep on learning, and we keep on building that muscle memory for problem solving. So we're going to need to learn new things. We're going to need to learn to redesign everything around us. The clothes we wear, the food we eat, the furniture we sit on, the way we get around, the homes we build. So we've got to rethink waste, where everything that becomes waste becomes the food for something else. So some companies are thinking about this stuff and how to shift from a material heavy economy to an intangibles economy or a servitization economy. This is an exciting time to solve new problems with new solutions. It's a great opportunity for Lean thinkers to serve in new ways. So one of the first principles of Lean thinking is to understand value. And you just got to pick up, Womack and Jones' book again, read up about it, because it's just as relevant today as ever. And we can understand what is value. And when we understand what is value, we can also have a better sense of what is waste. We can see the waste more clearly. So traditionally, we've asked, what do our customers value? What is it that they're prepared to pay for? But how do you see value now? And has it changed? So I believe the context of value is changing, and customers want more for their money than before. They want more than good quality, speed, and low cost. They want peace of mind. They want to know that they're not doing harm. So people say that we need to educate our consumers to buy more responsibly. But I personally dedicated my time to sustainability, and I'm supposedly educated in sustainability, but I still make bad decisions. And I think we need to present our customers with better solutions. We have to present them with more responsible offerings delivered in more responsible ways. So I love this slide that I saw Dan Jones present in 2012. I think it was a French Lean Summit, if I remember correctly, where he explained value beautifully. And I've been playing with that slide over the years, and maybe I've overcomplicated the slide now. But I think it's worth sketching something like this for your company and seeing what new value you might bring by linking lean and sustainability. So, of course, there's value for the customer in the work that we do to improve. There's value for the business in the results that we bring. There's value for the planet in the impact that we bring down. And there's value for the employee in the way they benefit from the relationship with the workspace. So I think it's time to rethink value for each of our headings here in red. Actually, we can scratch the word planet, because the planet will do fine, without us. It carries on whether we're here or not. It's not the planet that we're actually trying to save here. It's really ourselves and the others we inhabit the earth with. So you might change that value from value for the planet to value for humankind, or the human agenda, which is something I want to talk about next. So our challenge is not only an environmental one. Our challenge is to meet the needs of all people within the means of the planet, and not overshoot on ecological boundaries, but also not fall short on the social foundations. So in Kate Raworth's words, the dark hole in the middle of this donut is where we fall short on life's essentials, like housing, like equality, like food. It's basically the things we need for a life of dignity, a life of opportunity. So the outer circle is where you overshoot on, ecological boundaries, where we reach and surpass environmental tipping points, like changing the climate, like losing biodiversity, like messing up our oceans. So we want to get ourselves into what's called the sweet spot for humanity. And this is the in-between space where we live in a safe and just world, which is basically over here. And this is the human agenda to survive and thrive. So the problems we create and the problems we solve will take us either further or closer from this goal. So what we do as lean thinkers matters. How we guide companies to do better matters. When we come up with new improvements, it matters that we ask if there's an impact benefit too. So my colleagues here with me today who are presenting in parallel sessions will go deeper into their case studies today. And the work they're doing will help us get closer to the sweet spot. So a quick digression again. You can see from the donut that there's more to sustainability than carbon reduction. Sustainability is a big word. And carbon reduction is, of course, critical to climate change, but there are many others to think about. So when you evaluate your value chains, you need to look hard for your impacts on things like inequality, food waste, energy consumption, water usage, biodiversity. You know, the list goes on. It's not just about carbon. So to give you a break from my slides, sorry, I don't know why this is coming through a bit white. To give you a break from my slides, because it's nighttime in the UK, I figured I'll tell you a bit of a story. And if you've ever read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, you may remember the story of the boy who was sent to learn from the wise man and to ask him what was the secret of happiness. And this boy went to the palace, and when he arrived there, the wise man listened to the boy's question, you know, what is the secret to happiness? And he told the boy that he didn't have time to explain the secret, but that the boy must stroll around the palace for 2 hours, holding a spoon with 2 drops of oil on the spoon. So the boy did as he was asked and duly returned with the 2 drops of oil safely on the spoon. But the wise man asked the boy if he had seen the beautiful Persian tapestries on the walls during his walk about the palace, but the boy had not. So the wise man told him to go back and see the wonders of the world. So the boy strolled around the palace, enjoyed all of its wonders. He saw the mountains, he saw flowers, he saw beautiful artworks on the walls. But when he returned, he realized he had spilled all of the oil. So when the wise man saw that the spilled oil had been, left off, he said, well, this is the only advice I have for you. The secret of happiness lies in looking at all the wonders of the world and never forgetting the 2 drops of oils on the spoon. So anyway, that's the story of the boy who learned the secret of happiness in The Alchemist. And I love the story on a personal level. It seems like great advice, but it also reminds us to look out and see the wonders of the world, look out and appreciate the external factors also affecting our businesses, and to look inside at the devilish detail in our value streams, keeping our eye on those little drops of oil. Big picture, devilish detail. So connecting to a vision for a safe and just world, like you saw in that donut, this is what we're doing. We should be looking at every process in every part of our business to deliver on that vision, keeping our eye on the oil. So with story time finished, let's talk more about the practical how, and think about your business, think about impact, and perhaps it's time to take aim through a new frame. So look out to the bigger picture and pick where your organization influences the donut the most. Can you spot these opportunities in your value chain? For example, how does your value chain contribute to climate change? What gases do you emit? Where? How big is the problem? And what system levers can you tug on? So as with lean, we always need to take a look at the whole and looking up and down the value chain to understand our carbon impact as part of that. What's the source of the power? Where is the biggest offender? Where can we make a difference? What problem do we need to solve? If you use water in your processes, how does the value chain affect fresh water? Do you pollute? Do you drain fresh water? Do you interrupt water flows every time you build new buildings or develop something new? What problem will you solve? How well do you know your value chain, your suppliers, your suppliers' suppliers? So the lean company can weather storms, and Akio Toyoda of Toyota presented their financial results after the worst hits from the pandemic, still showing positive returns and good growth. And in the press release, this success and their resilience was attributed to their culture of Kaizen, in his words. So stable, competitive companies bring stable employment, which contributes to stronger social foundations. So your lean work that stabilizes companies in the market and gives their employees stable employment is contributing to a social foundation. So I've touched on only a handful of things to think about, but I'll release a book next year and talk about it a bit more. So it takes time to learn to take aim through a new frame. But the question I want to ask is, how can we connect the opportunities that we spot in the value chain with improvements on the ground? Now, a few weeks ago, I walked the factory floor in Toyota, and I saw a number of green Kaizens in progress. Someone had observed a chemical spill that could affect the water quality, and this was turned into a Kaizen for improvement. Another had observed a waste of energy. This was turned into a Kaizen. Another recognized an air leak, which was wasting energy, and turned it into a Kaizen. So, these things are happening in companies like that. In another company, they walked the floor and observed a number of unused parts piling up in their stores. And it turns out, these parts could be reused. Better still, they could be avoided in the first place. So they're busy on their A3 now, finding ways to reduce these wasted parts and improve the recycling of the ones left over. So, this is an example of companies that have got this bigger picture of their sustainability challenge that they've set out for themselves, but they're looking for the details on the floor to see how this can work and what improvements they can chase. So I recommend you read the book, The Lean Strategy, to learn more about the 4F model. But we do need this helicopter view of strategic priorities and our donut impacts. But we also need to be at the gemba to see the real problems and the real facts so we can find and face those issues on the ground and to face the reality of our problems. And we need to frame those problems in such a way that we can get everyone to help us solve them. So taking aim through this frame helps us to connect a vision for a safe and just future with on-the-ground work too, in a realistic way. Lean is a strategy, and it is a way to help everyone every day solve problems that matter. So let's climb into the value chain for a few minutes. If we took a view of only greenhouse gas emissions for a moment and looked at only the emissions from energy, this is the bulk of emissions. It's 73%. So if we were to scrutinize our value chains and our business and get our A3s up and running on these, we could make a difference to emissions. So it makes sense to get to know our value chains better. So to spot the problems in the value chain, I know this is a bit of a busy slide. Don't try and read it all. I'll give you these slides after. But to spot the problems in your value chain, you need to have a systems view. And, you got to look at it from the time you're pulling the resources out of the ground up until you put them to rest in landfill and look at everything in between. And this is about seeing the whole to find the greatest contributors to ecological and social boundaries, and ask questions. How could you, resource more responsibly? How could you design and produce more responsibly? How might you distribute with less impact? How will you influence more responsible consumption? And if you have to dispose, how will you reduce it and do it more responsibly? So I can't give you the solutions, but this depends on your problems that you've set out to solve. But do your research, use your creative juices, and use the ingenuity of your teams to think of new ways across the value stream to do it differently. So moving from a systems view to the two drops of oil on the spoon view, you want to get to know your value stream and the problems to be solved at the operational level too. So don't be shy to walk the floor looking for new kinds of waste. Visit your customer sites, visit your suppliers, see the problems, see the challenges firsthand. Capture what you learn about your value streams. You could map it out. I mean, you're used to mapping out things like flow and quality, but you could map out your impact. And this lady and her team are mapping out their energy, their material, emissions, water consumption for their value stream. So, they were trying to understand the problems and the sources. So it's not such a leap to use your maps to show impact. All you're trying to do here is make the problems visible and see where the most impact is to be had. So I'm not going to read this to you. You can see this afterwards, but the team was also to help guide them. They were using their 7 green wastes to know what to look for when they were going out on their Gemba walks. And it started to prompt them to look for alternative ideas. And within a day, just a day, they found $50,000 worth of savings after costs. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that was just skimming the surface and only the beginning. Because there is a solid business case that goes beyond cost reduction to raising revenues, keeping your good people in-house, creating new revenue streams, even attracting good investments. So we're lean people, and we're used to looking for anything that causes delays or prevents us from delivering value into the hand of the customers. But, think for a moment, what impact could you have on the footprint by doing these things? For example, Making more product than needed. Overproduction consumes resources, energy, capacity. In its worst form, this product goes to waste without even being used at all. When we hold excessive stock, we have to house that stock, we have to manage it. That means more space, more transport, more emissions. When we produce poor quality, we consume resources fixing it. More energy, more materials, more emissions. I can go on, layouts, motion, locations, routes influence transport. Optimizing reduces transport energy. So all of these things here can impact that 73% I mentioned earlier. Unfortunately, optimizing value streams is fairly reactive in nature, but it plays such an important role nurturing eco-minded teams that are developing their problem-solving skills. And even if you design perfectly sustainable operations from scratch, there'll always be a need for continuous improvement as new problems emerge or performance regresses. So know your value streams and find the opportunity to reduce these wastes and then solve the problems together. All right, so I want to encourage you to use your lean learning systems that you already have. You just need to educate yourself on some of the technical opportunities and learn to see what is abnormal and what is not okay. So I'm working with companies that have brought their sustainability challenges into their ocean. They're walking the gemba, looking for facts of their impact so that they can face these problems. They make their problems visible by looking for waste, by understanding their value chain, by mapping their green wastes out. They're showing me their A3s with pride that target environmental waste in cost-effective ways. And they're using 5 whys to try and understand the sources. And they include environment in their KPIs to trigger their daily conversations about problems. So, use what you already have. So well done. You've made it through nearly 30 minutes with me on a very heavy topic. So I commend you for that. And to finish off, the collective power of lean thinkers to solve problems that matter is profound. So I encourage you to do 3 things, or at least think about it. 1, get a sense of the bigger picture and spot the opportunities in your value chains. 2, use the lean systems of learning that you already have to take one problem at a time. And 3, don't go it alone. You need all hearts, hands, and heads on deck for this one. And if you think you're too small to make a difference, you've never been in bed with a mosquito. And those from Africa will know what I mean. We can all make a difference. I think it just begins with ourselves. Thanks very much for having me.
Well,
I think we're handing back to Bruno. Thank you very much, Rose. That was fantastic.
Sure thing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rose, for an amazing presentation, very inspiring for everyone that could attend it, for sure. And now I would like to invite you all to join us in our parallel session in 2.5 hours, where we will discuss about 4 cases on applying lean thinking for environmental sustainability. So I hope to see you there, and thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.